TJ plays. Sorry. Here I thought I could watch without staying up late. No. We're into the American time zone part of the season. So, well, if you're in the Americas, you'll be very happy indeed. If you are elsewhere in the world, becomes a little bit of a trickier one, doesn't it? Just guarantee that you're actually up at the right time that the race is going to be on and not ruining your entire life to try and watch a Formula One race, which, let's face it, we're all going to have to do over the next couple of months at some point, especially if you're UK based like me. There's going to be a couple of races where you've got to really want to watch them if you're going to watch them. Hello, Apocrypho John. How's it going? Dozzy, how we doing? From India? Oh, I don't know how it's probably not. Oh no, it will be pretty horrendous, the time zone difference, won't it? I was thinking, are you further ahead enough? But probably not quite far ahead enough for this to be a reasonable time. The timings are so bad for me, I can't even watch quali. As in the timings on the screen. I didn't notice anything wrong with them yesterday, but I'll keep an eye out for you. Or do you mean the timings on the official live stream that we get from, well, if you're in the UK, Sky, if you're elsewhere. I'm glad the late timings are into the season. That's true, Sally. Yeah, it kind of builds up to a bit of a crescendo at least. Abu Dhabi's not too bad of a time zone though. Just because it's got to be run at night because it's in a desert. But the US Grand Prix, Brazil's going to be probably a pretty late one. Getting close to that part of the season, aren't we? But let's talk about Formula One rather than time zones, as we are in COTA, the home of American Formula One for a lot of people. I know they've added Miami, they've added Vegas to the calendar, but the real Formula One fans in America, they head to COTA, Texas for the American Grand Prix. In terms of the Drivers' Championship, the thing that we'll be keeping an eye on most throughout this weekend, it feels like. I was saying yesterday, we just need a bad performance from Max Verstappen, really, just to guarantee that the two McLaren drivers are safe enough away from Max Verstappen. But at the moment, it's looking like everything's going to go in Max Verstappen's favor. And I think it was Ted Kravitz who said Max Verstappen is like the T-Rex in Jurassic Park, just like relentlessly chasing down Piastri and Norris, and impossible to be stopped, possibly, considering he is starting from pole position. But going from the top down, Oscar Piastri does still lead the championship from his teammate Lando Norris, within a win's worth of points, though, has to be said now. So Lando Norris has brought that down a couple of times over the last couple of races, and now within 25 points of his teammate Max Verstappen, then also within contention, just close enough that it's not impossible for Max Verstappen to take victory, but also ridiculous if he does manage to do it with 6 races to go, a 63-point margin required. That is a lot of points. You know, even when we were talking about Lando Norris being like 30 points behind, we were saying that's going to be tough to overcome for Lando after Zandvoort. Max Verstappen 63 points behind, but the rules just seem to be different when you're Max Verstappen in Formula One, don't they? Like, he writes his own scripts, does Max Verstappen. George Russell then in 4th place, 237 points, still technically within the championship battle as well after that victory last time out in Singapore, but feels like he's not actually within touching distance of the championship. Similar for Charles Leclerc, all the way down on 173 points, like almost half of what Oscar Piastri has got, yet still technically can win the championship from this point. Just needs everybody above him to DNF from every single session from here until the end of the season. Lewis Hamilton, the first driver outside of championship contention, 125 points for Lewis Hamilton so far. The Ferrari's not having an amazing qualifying yesterday. Kimi Antonelli back into 7th place to try and consolidate those kind of top 4 teams at the top of the standings. But the midfield bunch are competitive this year, none more so than Alex Albon. He's on 70 points for Williams. Hadjar, Hulkenberg, Alonso, Sainz, Stroll, all looking very competitive at points this season. Lawson, oh, sorry, you can throw into that mix as well. Ocon, Gasly, Tsunoda, Bortoletto, Behrman, Colapinto, and Jack doing sort of making up the numbers at this point. You can't tell Max he can't do something. He'll just do it to prove you wrong. It does feel like that, doesn't it? It feels like we all kind of got into the summer break and we were like, ooh, a title battle between the 2 McLarens it's going to be then, you know. Which of the 2 McLarens will win the championship? And Max Verstappen's just kind of gone, you know, I'm like the reigning champion of this thing. Just win Grand Prix for fun. It's won 2 out of 3, a 2nd place last time out in Singapore. Like, had Max Verstappen won 3 in a row, it would have been insane. But even with that, what have we got? 6 races left. Sprint races in there as well. What we've got a sprint here in Texas, sprint in Brazil, and is that it? If we had another sprint in this half of the season? Italy, Azerbaijan, Singapore. Yeah. So it's an interesting one for Max, isn't it? He's just, as you say, can't be stopped. And like every Grand Prix where we say, well, this one should go in the favor of the McLarens. Like last time out in Singapore, everyone was like, oh, it's going to be okay though, because at least the McLarens will win there. And then Max Verstappen actually beats both of the McLaren drivers. Wow, look at that. The sprint award for winning the sprint, coming 2nd or 3rd, is a belt buckle. Very Texas. A fancy belt buckle for winning the sprint race here this afternoon. And 8 points, of course, on to the board for winning the sprint as well. We'll get to the qualifying grid in a second, but wanted to just show you what the championship looks like now, because, as I say, 8 points up for grabs for the winner, 7 and 6 for 2nd and 3rd place. So a good chunk of points you can get from a sprint race now, especially if, you know, Max Verstappen does go on to win it. Say Lando and Oscar take one another out. A chunking of 8 points would be considerable at this point in the season. Take him down to 55 points behind Oscar Piastri. Sort of nearly within 2 wins then, isn't it? It's like, Max Verstappen is getting closer and closer. If he's within 25 points going into Abu Dhabi, I could see it sort of playing into his favour. Like if Max Verstappen is within 25 points going into Abu Dhabi, Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri just bump into one another. Max Verstappen takes the victory easily. Just it writes itself, doesn't it? The script is set in stone at this point, it feels. Do I think Christian Horner was the problem at Red Bull this season? Not necessarily Christian Horner, but more so the fact that there was a lot going on behind the scenes because of Christian Horner. So yes, I guess in a way. I don't think he was the problem as to why the car wasn't as effective as it has been in recent years. We started to see the Red Bull ebb away from being the top car towards the end of last year, didn't we? You know, that upgrade to the McLaren car in Miami where Lando Norris won the race last year, and it's like started to feel like the Red Bull was becoming the 2nd fastest, sometimes even 3rd fastest car last season. It's kind of continued into this season, but Red Bull have continued to develop and they have bounced back a touch. Max Verstappen was doing miracles at the beginning of the season. A little bit of a lull in the middle part of the season for Max Verstappen. Has come back from the summer break, looks like a new man, doesn't he? If it's 25 points before Abu Dhabi, Tsunoda's going to do Bottas bowling and Crashgate combo. Yeah, he's wiping out both of the McLaren cars. Problem with Tsunoda having to do that, Tsunoda's got to get close to the McLaren cars. And that doesn't happen very often. Sorry, Yuki Tsunoda fans. He is not having the best of seasons, is he? He's not overly close to the 2 McLaren drivers very often on the grid. On that note, Max Verstappen might be Dealing with championship contention in the Drivers' Championship, Red Bull are nowhere close in the Constructors. McLaren confirming their Constructors' Championship win for back-to-back seasons. Last time out in Singapore, 650 points they have. Mercedes literally on half that amount so far this season, 325 with George Russell and Kimi Antonelli. Ferrari still ahead of Red Bull by 8 points. There you go again. Another 8 points for Max Verstappen. That would put Red Bull above Ferrari in the Constructors' Championship. Again, assuming that the Ferrari cars will not score points. Charles Leclerc starting inside of the points today, so you'd hope Ferrari at least get one on the board. But Max Verstappen could move the Red Bull team above Ferrari just in this sprint race here this afternoon, which is just ridiculous, isn't it? He's carrying that team all by himself. Williams then over the 100-point margin, 102 points, 5th place. That feels pretty much locked in. But Racing Bulls, Aston Martin, Stake Sauber behind. Stakefield too far away. Racing Bulls within 30 points, or exactly 30 points behind, sorry. Maybe could get there. We'd have to wait and see. Oh, there is an update available for multi-viewer. How long have we got? We've got 16 minutes. Do we risk it? I'm going to do the update after the stream, I think. Let's run through it, though. What do we feel? What are our predictions going into this sprint race, then? I think it's going to be fairly competitive because I think there is still the opportunity to overtake, especially up into turn 1. We're seeing a replay of Jenson Button rattling through the field in his McLaren days and getting the right line through that first sector. You can definitely get yourself a move or two, but this is the starting grid. If the Max wins the title this year, will it be a factor that will be used later to say that he was the F1 GOAT? Absolutely. I feel like this season in general can be used to talk about how insanely good he has been. Like, he is not in the best car and has not been in the best car by a considerable margin for more than the majority of the season, like a considerable majority of the season, and still is, you know, winning races, most pole positions of anybody so far this season. Like, the accolades are continuing to be there for Max Verstappen. He continues to defy logic inside of that Red Bull car. And I know you can just say, well, are you not just being too positive or too kind to Max Verstappen? I don't think I am. I think he is just something else. Like, something spicy. Max and Oscar collide, both DNF. I mean, I'd prefer that. Oscar DNFing I wouldn't be too happy about, but at least Lando Norris would likely come out victorious by a considerable margin. 8 points for Lando Norris would be, again, a big chunk in the championship standings. Moves him ever closer to Oscar Piastri. I could see that happening, though, because Max Verstappen's going to obviously be followed up the hill by Oscar Piastri. Max was asked about this yesterday, and the fact that starting from first place here in Texas is not always the dream that you would hope it would be. You're going uphill fairly quickly, and also you can get the inside line to the corner if you're sort of starting behind the front runner. It's going to be very, very tricky indeed for Max Verstappen to come out of the first sector still in the lead. Depends how good of a start they get, right? We saw Lando Norris get a very, very good start in Singapore and dart up the inside of his teammate. Okay, it was a little bit messy towards the end where they ended up bumping wheels and Lando Norris bumped into the back of Max Verstappen as well. But yeah, the run up towards turn 1 here is pretty long and uphill, and you're starting on the sort of wrong side of the grid, really. Like, they've made turn 1 at COTA pretty tricky for whoever is starting on pole position a lot of the time. There is a lady who is trying to get Max Verstappen's signature so much. but is not able to get it. Oh, that is such a shame. What time does quality start? We're about 10 minutes out. So if you have got any questions, queries, bits and pieces you want to go through, let me know. But let's go through the qualifying grid then. Sorry, not qualifying. You made me think about it then, have you? It is a sprint race. We're in the sprint race right now. We're not in a qualifying session. Oh, do you mean later? Later on is... Local time for me is 10 p.m. I don't know if you're in the same time zone. Does Russell have a chance in this sprint? I would say no. I think the Mercedes car, as it has been throughout this entire regulation cycle, just has races where it is absolutely ridiculous and has races where it is clearly third or fourth fastest. I think this is going to be one of those ones where it is just third fastest, unfortunately for George Russell. He'll still probably get a fourth place if he can get past Nico Hülkenberg. He'll still finish best of the rest outside of Verstappen, Norris, Piastri, and hence why he's there in the championship as well, right? He often finishes in the best position possible to the Mercedes team, but the Mercedes car just has so many ups and downs throughout a season. It ebbs and flows in terms of its competitiveness that no other team really does in the same vein, does it? So Mercedes, well, from the top teams anyway, Mercedes seems to be absolutely in a league of its own, completely ridiculous, so quick that no one's going to get anywhere close, or pretty middle. It's never competitive. It's super, super, super good. Okay. And that's where Mercedes kind of lie this season. I think they're going to be okay this weekend. And then they'll be super quick come Vegas again. Probably pretty good in Mexico, pretty good in Brazil, There's a lot of races coming up where George Russell will get his chance to get a third victory on the cards. But let's go through the grid then. Starting at the top, Max Verstappen, as we've mentioned a couple of times, starting from pole position. 8 points available to him if he can finish there after 19 laps of the Circuit of the Americas. Lando Norris starts beside him in second place. Those two a level of their own, really, when it came to qualifying yesterday for this sprint race. Feels like the qualifying later on today is also going to be between those two. Oscar Piastri felt like he was a 10th or so off the pace, just couldn't quite click with the McLaren car in the same way that Lando Norris could. Slots into third place. I think it's going to be one of those weekends where, again, Oscar Piastri just falls short of Lando Norris. It's one of those Lando Norris tracks that he does seem to be able to grab performances from. Nico Hülkenberg starts in fourth place. That Stakes Sauber car seems so settled with Nico Hülkenberg this weekend. Nico Hülkenberg, a huge amount of praise for the team and the work that they've done after qualifying yesterday over the radio. And they absolutely deserve it. It feels like they had a bit of a resurgence, didn't they? Just before the summer break, Hülkenberg had a good run of point scoring finishes, sort of Spain onwards. Then, of course, got that podium place in Silverstone. He was destined to get at some point during his career. Finally nabbed that podium place and a Lego trophy to boot. Then, sort of post-summer break, it's been a little bit more fiddly for Nico Hülkenberg. He struggled in qualifying, but yesterday really came together. A fourth place start for Nico Hülkenberg. Very, very solid indeed. George Russell starts in fifth place. Could George Russell do something from there? I think, again, possibility of getting past Nico Hülkenberg is quite high. Possibility of going any further, I don't think so. Fernando Alonso starting sixth. Again, the Aston Martin just sometimes good, sometimes bad. It's really difficult to judge the midfield cars throughout this season, I find anyway. I was expecting RB to be a little bit more competitive than they are. RB, though, will definitely be competitive in Mexico next weekend, and that's maybe where the Aston Martins will fall back again. It is very track dependent when it comes to these midfield cars, and also just very dependent on how the setup gets together. very up and down Aston Martin this season. Fernando Alonso, though, will be hoping to get a couple more points on the board. Carlos Sainz and Lewis Hamilton, the two drivers starting inside of the point scoring places. Oh, apologies. I think it said Charles Leclerc would be starting inside of the points earlier on. But it is Lewis Hamilton who outqualified his teammate. So Hamilton starting in 8th place. Alex Albon and Charles Leclerc both made it through to Q3 yesterday, but are not starting inside of the point scoring places. Again, Alex Albon, Charles Leclerc, what can they do from that position? I was going to say, you know, the Ferraris realistically should be looking at Carlos Sainz and Fernando Alonso and thinking that they can get above them, even Nico Hülkenberg, and thinking that they can get above them as well. But I just don't know if they will. The Ferraris look so far off the pace compared to the rest. And Hamilton and Leclerc very, very somber after qualifying yesterday. Not very optimistic for their chances of doing anything this weekend, to be honest. Kimi Antonelli was the first driver to fall in Q2. Just got pipped by the two Ferraris. Isaac Hadjar then starts in 12th place, and once you get beyond 12th place in a sprint race, it's pretty much just a 19-lap parade at this point. They're going to be fighting for position, don't get me wrong, but doesn't feel like there's any chance of getting points for Pierre Gasly or Lance Stroll starting on the 7th row of the grid. Liam Lawson and Ollie Behrman in 15th and 16th place. Craziness that meant that Behrman didn't get an opportunity to improve on his lap. Colapinto, Tsunoda, Ocon and Bortoleto. Tsunoda as well, starting in 18th place. The team did apologise to Yuki Tsunoda for qualifying yesterday. They got it all wrong. They sent him out at the complete wrong time. And he paid the price for it. They tried to go super, super late. They went too late. And he didn't get across the checkered flag in time. Ended up running out of road and running out of any opportunity to improve on 18th place, which was pretty tricky for Yuki Tsunoda. Thoughts on Kota? By far and away one of the best tracks on the calendar. I think underrated, actually, because whenever people say, like, what's your favorite track, or what tracks do you look forward to, or what races do you look forward to in a season, I think everybody goes straight to like your Brazils, your Spas, your Monzas, like those races that often do deliver. Although Monza's been pretty meh over the last couple of years, hasn't it? I think they're the ones that jump out to people more so than any others. I think Kota, though, actually should be in the top like 5. Kota always seems to deliver a good racing weekend. It's a great track. It's kind of got the best corners from lots of different circuits all mushed together, which is not a bad way of making a race circuit, right? Just take the best bits of others. But yeah, I think Kota underrated as one of the best Grand Prix of the entire season for me. I think Spa is the best track. Yeah, I think everybody's got their favorites, and that's what I mean. I think everybody has their favorites, and Kota is never anyone's like absolute favorite. But I don't know why not. Like, it is really, really good. Like, it's a brilliant track, and always delivers fairly decent race weekends as well. What about Hamilton? What about Hamilton? He's starting in 8th place. I honestly don't think he's going to overtake many cars in front of him. I could see Hamilton finishing outside of the point scoring places here, depending on how the start of this sprint race goes. If Alex Albon can get the jump on Lewis Hamilton and get ahead of him at the start, I don't think that Ferrari's got the pace to do much, to be honest with you. Kota's one of my top 5 favorites. I think it's one of my top 5 favorites as well, but it's never talked about as like the absolute best of the best. It's in that category just below of like brilliant, but underrated maybe. And what about George? Again, I think can maybe get past Hülkenberg. Wouldn't expect him to do anything more than that. Which F1 Academy driver do I think is most ready to move up to F2 or F1? I don't want to be the bearer of bad news, but I don't think any. I think it's going to take a long time for the Formula Academy series to have a driver that really does show that potential and goes up into Formula 3, Formula 2, Formula 1, if I'm honest. It's still very young. It's still very early in the days where the Formula Academy, how long is it we go now? Is this its 2nd season? Maybe it's 3rd season? I feel like I should know, but I don't. But yeah, Formula Academy, I think it's a great idea, and I really love the racing, but I think we're still a little while off it producing a driver that any of the Formula One teams are going to go, yes, they are the one I want. And they're going to start to sort of build into their plans for the future. Even in the MotoGP games, Sector 1 feels easy. Yeah, I forget the MotoGP races here. What was it, 2013 onwards, MotoGP started to race here? Like a year or so after the first Austin Formula 1 race. I think NASCAR maybe races here or something like that. Possibly. Or like a NASCAR-y type series. Is NASCAR just ovals? No, it can't be. I know nothing about NASCAR. It's the one form of motorsport that I just really don't follow in any kind of capacity. Like, you know, even like World Endurance, I'll watch a couple of races here and there. You know, you watch your Le Mans, you watch your 24 Hours of Spa, you watch those kind of things. Or even like IndyCar, I'll watch the Indy 500 and I'll keep on top of the races as they're kind of going throughout the season. But NASCAR, I watch absolutely zero of. So apologies, NASCAR fans that are in the chat. Maybe you can give me a reason why I should be watching NASCAR more so. Sponsor Series Endurance 2. There you go. Now there's going to be a Le Mans here. Ooh. NASCAR races on ovals and road circuits. Oh, there you go. And street circuits too. See, I just always think... I think NASCAR, I think circles. But there you go. NASCAR does race here. I thought so. I thought I'd read that in my notes somewhere about the Texas circuit. The COTA circuit. Here we go then. Shall we get ourselves prepared for an absolute banger of a race? I'm putting it into existence now that this is going to be top draw. Let's make that a little bit bigger. Is that okay for everybody? Can everyone see everything that they want to see? 19 laps of the COTA circuit in this sprint race. No rain expected, as you'd imagine. Yeah. Although they are having to wear the cooling vests again. So it is hot enough that Formula One's deemed it too warm for the drivers to race under regular circumstances. They're having to wear the cooling vest. Better be the best sprint ever, says Stazzy Bazzy. On Twitch. Thank you so much for watching on Twitch. If you haven't gone and followed the Twitch channel, please do. Trying to get to 700 followers before the end of the season. We are live on Twitch alongside YouTube and YouTube Shorts. And whilst we wait for the formation lap to get properly underway, I'm also going to plug some other bits and pieces. If you haven't subscribed to the Crash Happy podcast, it is me, Dan No Skill, Mr. V, Mr. Pulse. We are Formula Duck. We get to talk Formula One. Well, I say talk Formula One and Formula One adjacent things every week over on the Crash Happy podcast, trying to get that to 10,000 subscribers before the end of the season. Should be doable. But you could, you know, nudge us in the right direction. And that would be absolutely wonderful if you could help us out. But we are on the way for the formation lap. Max Verstappen through the first sector then. The medium compound tyre chosen by everybody. Remember the sprint race, not expecting any pit stops. If somebody does have to stop, it will be for an unexpected circumstance. And this is a big opportunity where Verstappen, Norris and Piastri fight for the win. The only thing Verstappen needs to be a little bit concerned about is obviously McLaren do have the better tyre degradation of the two cars. So even if Max Verstappen does lead after the first couple of laps, he's going to have to be very careful about how much he takes away from those medium compound tyres, because Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri will just have the ability to keep theirs alive for a little bit longer. That is the way that the car is set up, and that's why the McLarens have had such an advantage, especially through the middle part of the season where we were looking at those sort of European stint throughout the middle part of the season. looking at your Spains, your Hungaries, those kind of races where the McLaren tyre degradation just really came to the fore. Could be something that also plays into Lando Norris's hands here this afternoon. Nico Hülkenberg also needs to be just a little bit careful and cautious. A 4th place finish would be absolutely brilliant for him. It would get 5 points on the board for him and the Stakes Sauber team. Every single position in the Constructors' Championship worth a good haul of money. With Stakes Sauber becoming Audi next year, they would be very positive indeed. I just subscribed. Say thanks unless I unsubscribe. Well, John with threatening me. I am very thankful for every single subscriber, though. Here we are then. Formation lap. Getting slotted into position is Nico Hülkenberg. Fernando Alonso also coming to a stop just behind. And the few of the drivers taking their time. Franco Colapinto seeming to take an age to go around the Andretti corner. Turn 20 here at Cota. And Colapinto, Tsunoda, Ocon and Bortoletto still not anywhere close to taking their spots on the grid, really. Max Verstappen is going to be looking at his watch and thinking, my goodness me, could we get going? My tyres are cooling down every single second. Colapinto playing some sort of mind games maybe with Ollie Behrman in front of him, leaving a big gap. Here we are then. All 20 drivers are on the grid. Nobody starting from the pit lane. 5 red lights. And we are underway then. And Max Verstappen straight away comes across to cover off. And Oscar Piastri's got the better launch of the 2 McLarens. Lando Norris is going to fall behind his teammate unless he darts up the inside. He takes the inside line. And Oscar Piastri has spun out his teammate. And oh my goodness me, it's Nico Hülkenberg, Oscar Piastri and Lando Norris that have come to blows. Max Verstappen gets away beautifully. George Russell up into 2nd place. Carlos Sainz into 3rd. And it is a nightmare scenario for both of the McLarens. Oh my God! Both of the McLarens have dropped outside of the points. Piastri is down to 15th. Lando Norris is going to be out of this. He's still facing the wrong way and I think missing a tyre inside of his McLaren car. Oscar Piastri tried to dart up the other side. Oh my goodness me, and there's a front wing from somebody. Who is missing a front wing from the field? Everybody is having a little bit of a bump and grind with one another here in Cota. Goodness gracious me. Max Verstappen looking very comfortably down towards turn 12, and there is the safety car we were expecting. Oh my goodness. Nico Hülkenberg caught amongst it. Oscar Piastri has come to a stop. Fernando Alonso has come to a stop as well. There is a stranded tyre from Lando Norris's car on the left-hand side of the track down towards turn 2. And there is Lando Norris jumping out of his Grand Prix McLaren car. The sprint race is over before turn 1 for him, and Oscar Piastri has also come to a stop at turn 9. Max Verstappen, what did I say? Max Verstappen, 8 points on the board, both McLaren cars DNF, would mean that he is within 55 points of the championship and can get to within 2 wins if he has a good Grand Prix. I literally said it. Why did I say it? Why do I keep talking positively about Max Verstappen? Because I really, really just need him to have a bad weekend. He just doesn't, though, does he? Never has a bad weekend, does Max Verstappen? Never has a bad weekend. Was very aggressive. Yeah, Lando Norris got the slower start. Oscar Piastri was up alongside his teammate. Lando Norris then tried to cover up the inside, so Oscar Piastri went for the switchback, where he breaks that a little bit later, but comes up the inside of his teammate. Lando Norris not able to deal with it, but then Piastri bumps into Nico Hülkenberg, tries to go underneath Lando Norris. Nico Hülkenberg is there, though. And Hülkenberg then bumps into Piastri. Piastri then also smashes into Norris. And I think Fernando Alonso is also caught up in that mixture. Let's see it from Nico Hülkenberg's perspective. You can see Oscar Piastri does get the better launch. She's ahead of Lando Norris going in towards turn one, but Piastri doesn't have the inside line. And then, yeah, Hülkenberg does indeed wipe out Fernando Alonso as well. I think it is Oscar Piastri that makes the mistake, though. Piastri can't really blame anyone else but himself there. He tries to dart up the inside of his teammate, but Hülkenberg is there. Hülkenberg's up the inside. And Piastri on the radio, knowing straight away that there is suspension damage in that car and pulling it over to a stop. So Piastri, Alonso and Norris all out of this race then. Fernando Alonso caught up in that. Nico Hülkenberg was also part of that collision, but has continued on in his Stakes Sauber car. He's dropped all the way from 4th down to 15th, though. And, yeah, Oscar Piastri was never going to be able to continue racing in that car. Fernando's luck is just amazing, isn't it? Yeah, Fernando Alonso, not very happy indeed. And then the problem was the chaos at the front then also caused chaos behind. So it's allowed Charles Leclerc and Lewis Hamilton to jump up the order considerably. Carlos Sainz also rubbing his hands together in 3rd place. Albon up in 6th. Yuki Tsunoda, a huge benefactor, is jumped from 18th all the way up into 7th. And Ollie Behrman, the same thing, dropped out in Q1 yesterday, now up into 8th place all of a sudden. So the chaos at the front just allowed those drivers that were in the right place at the right time to jump up a huge amount of places whilst drivers were rearranging themselves and trying not to hit into Lando Norris's parked car on the outside of turn 1. Obviously, both papaya cars out. Gonna need a little bit of a rework before we go into qualifying later on today. Safety car still out as we're on lap 3 of this sprint race here in COTA. Verstappen, Russell, Sainz is our top 3. Goodness me. Carlos Sainz on for a 2nd podium inside of that Williams car. No, it's only a sprint race podium, but still a podium nonetheless. Has certainly come to life in the second half of the season as Carlos Sainz. Charles Leclerc and Lewis Hamilton also gaining considerably. Here's from Yuki Tsunoda's perspective. Let's see it from the Japanese driver then. He just darts up the inside of everybody, gets a really, really solid start, does Yuki Tsunoda, and then sees all the chaos unfold in front of him and has to drive over a little bit of debris, but amongst driving through that debris, also drives through a lovely little opening and up into the point scoring places. Colapinto has had to come into the pit, so Colapinto 17th place now and trying to catch up to the back of the pack. And Lewis Hamilton, there's debris all the way from turn 1 down to turn 11. So Lewis Hamilton not very happy at all with the amount of debris and carbon fiber that is strewn across the track. And the problem was a lot of the cars that were involved in those little bumps and bruises, obviously they take the damage, but then it's not until they get up to the top speeds where bits of carbon fiber come loose enough to dislodge themselves from the car. And there you go. You can see it strewn across the racetrack. Lewis Hamilton a little bit concerned in his Ferrari car that one false step and your tyres are no longer fully intact. Lando Norris makes his way back down to the paddock. Has walked his way from turn 1. Wasn't a long walk back to the pits. And Lando Norris makes his way through. They will undoubtedly have a conversation at McLaren later on today and discuss that move between the two McLaren cars. Let's just be thankful, McLaren fans, that it was not during a full Grand Prix. There's only 8 points up for grabs here for Max Verstappen. If it was 25, we'd be looking at a very different scenario going into this. But 8 points is still 8 points. And Max Verstappen looking like he's got them tied up. Lap 4 of the Grand Prix, still behind the safety car. More and more debris trying to be removed from the circuit. It's tough, though, if you're a steward, right? Or a marshal, sorry. Because you haven't got long. The cars come past. Even under the safety car conditions, you've only got like 2 minutes to run out onto the racetrack, get as much of the little pieces of carbon fiber and debris as you possibly can, and then get back out of there again, as to not get run over by Max Verstappen or the safety car. Both of the McLarens are out then, so this is the order that we're going to have going into the racing once it gets back underway. There's still double yellows in various sectors across the track. And there are the marshals that I was just talking about. Sprinting their way onto the track. Trying to pick up those pieces of carbon fiber. That's what I mean. You have to wait until Colapinto comes around turn 11. And then the sort of debris round at turn 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. They're now sprinting across the track, gathering those little bits of carbon fiber, sweeping as much of it off of the racing line as possible and off of the circuit, if possible. And then trying to sprint out of the way once again as the cars make their way back towards the first sector. But this is the order we're going to have. Max Verstappen still leads. It's a very good launch from Max Verstappen. Did well, covered off the two McLarens nicely. The McLarens ended up fighting one another, so played into Max Verstappen's hands very kindly. George Russell just kept his nose clean, went to the right-hand side of the track and managed to swoop round both of the McLarens as they came to blows with Nico Hülkenberg and Fernando Alonso. George Russell addressing the situation, and George Russell very lucky not to get caught up by Oscar Piastri, actually, but a really good run around the outside from George Russell. Good reactions from him. Means he's now up into second place. Carlos Sainz, a huge benefactor as well, up into third. Charles Leclerc's perspective. Charles Leclerc was lucky because he was on the inside of the track, so he sort of had to weave his way through a little bit of the traffic. Threads the needle, actually, to Charles Leclerc between the two McLarens. I thought he would go up the inside, but he was not. He had to zoom through the middle of the two McLarens, then also past the debris of everyone else coming to blows. It was Nico Hülkenberg's front wing that we saw. And Oscar Piastri has also made his way back to the paddock and is making his way to a very different part of the McLaren hospitality suite than Lando Norris is in. Lando Norris made his way back into the garage. Oscar Piastri going to the hospitality area. So the two of the McLaren drivers just having a little bit of time away from one another, I would imagine, until the end of this sprint race. Safety car is ending this lap. So we have had 5 laps behind the safety car. That was how much debris there was all over the track, and 3 cars that they had to move. Fernando Alonso coming to a stop around sort of turn 4, 5, 6. Oscar Piastri coming to a stop at turn 9. Lando Norris's car abandoned at turn 1. So, to be fair to the marshals, they had a lot to do there, and they've done it pretty quickly. But we have got 14 laps left of racing then once Max Verstappen gets us underway. Verstappen has slowed the pack down to allow the safety car to disappear. Max Verstappen effectively becomes the safety car, and the safety car has just come around turn 19, and Max Verstappen's gone very early indeed. I think the safety car's only just going to get into the pits before Max Verstappen catches it back up again. Gone very early indeed as Max Verstappen gets a little bit out of shape towards turn 20, but I think George Russell is far enough away that Max Verstappen is still going to have the run up to turn 1 and be fairly safe. Carlos Sainz has a little look at the Mercedes car. The 2 Ferraris follow on behind, and everybody has decided to just have a nice clean run through turn 1 for the first time this afternoon under racing conditions. As we see the S's, and that's one of the most beautiful sights on the Formula 1 calendar. Every single one of the 17 cars still running, snaking through turns 4, 5, 6, and 7. Like, you look at it from turn 8's perspective, and you just see all the cars snaking through one after the other. Max Verstappen, though, has snaked his way through and is around turn 11. The lap 1, turn 1 incident was under investigation. No penalty is going to be given. Lewis Hamilton then running in 5th place behind his teammate. Will the two Ferraris be able to go fighting with one another? Lewis Hamilton was the quicker of the two in qualifying yesterday. Charles Leclerc, though, gained the position on his teammate after the chaos at turn 1. And here we are then. George Russell is within DRS range. DRS will be activated once we get to the end of this lap. And Russell keeping himself within that 1 second margin. Carlos Sainz 1.2 seconds behind. Charles Leclerc has got DRS to Carlos Sainz, the teammates from last season. Of course, very good friends, Charles Leclerc and Carlos Sainz, but friendship goes out the window when points are available. DRS is now enabled then. Won't be able to use it up towards turn 1, but from turn 11 down towards turn 12 will be the first time that DRS will be able to be used by these drivers. Hülkenberg hit Piastri, who then hit into Norris. I think Piastri tried a little bit of a switchback, though. From my perspective, if you're going to have to blame somebody, it's probably going to be Oscar Piastri. Tried the switchback into space that didn't exist. I know Hülkenberg was coming up the inside, but Hülkenberg had the place, you know. Hülkenberg was always going to take that line from that perspective. Piastri, I think, just kind of forgot that there were other cars on the track. He had all eyes on his teammate. And then Hülkenberg collides with Piastri. Piastri collides with Norris. Alonso's collected amongst it as well. And here comes Kimi Antonelli on Pierre Gasly. Pierre Gasly holds on to the position for now. Kimi Antonelli using that DRS, though, down towards turn 12, trying to gain on him. George Russell has done very well indeed to stay within touching distance of Max Verstappen. I thought this was going to be a fairly comfortable afternoon for Max Verstappen now that the two McLarens are gone, but George Russell deciding he doesn't want to make it easy for the 4-time world champion. And George Russell, new Mercedes contract in hand, wants to make it back-to-back victories for this season for the first time, and it's not quite got a lot of grip there. George Russell struggling to make it through turn 1, wrestling with that Mercedes car. And even with DRS not really getting to within striking distance of Max Verstappen, but keeping himself within contention nonetheless. Carlos Sainz, third fastest, dropping to 2.5 seconds beyond that then. So it's going to be Verstappen versus Russell, really, for the lead here. Carlos Sainz leaving those two to it. And the Ferraris will be sniffing a possible podium place. It's been a little while since we've had anything to really celebrate at Ferrari. Safety car infringement for Charles Leclerc noted. And here comes George Russell, then darts up the inside of turn 11, sends Max Verstappen very wide indeed. Max Verstappen, I don't know. Came from a very long way back, did George Russell. Went for a diving maneuver where nobody was really expecting him to do so. Max Verstappen certainly wasn't expecting him to do so. And Verstappen went super wide at turn 12. Rejoined the racetrack near turn 13. We'll see what the stewards have a little look at that then. Max Verstappen, though, is now going to be aware that George Russell is certainly looking to win this sprint race from him. And Max Verstappen's going to have to step on the gas pedal a little bit here. George Russell within DRS once again. Just closes in behind Max Verstappen for now. Verstappen on the radio. completely missed the corner, mate. What is that? Says Max Verstappen on the radio. George Russell. Probably, like, there's one driver I imagine George Russell doesn't want to win the championship. It's Max Verstappen. Like, George Russell and Max Verstappen, let's say not the best of friends. And also, George Russell knows that Mercedes have been courting Max Verstappen for a little while now. He's trying his absolute best to show that he is the main man at Mercedes and capable of battling with these top drivers. But George Russell, way too far, and yeah, doesn't even make the corner himself there, George Russell, so nothing to fight. And here go the two Ferraris. Lewis Hamilton trying to catch Charles Leclerc sleeping, and Charles Leclerc DRS with Lewis Hamilton there, and Leclerc can't do anything about it. Lewis Hamilton through turn 12, and now through turn 13, takes the place from his teammate, and he's back up ahead of Charles Leclerc. Interesting to see what Ferrari say about that. Lewis Hamilton just felt like he caught Charles Leclerc sleeping there a little bit. Leclerc, DRS, not able to be used because he wasn't within touching distance of Carlos Sainz. And Lewis Hamilton then just took the opportunity to go for it. George Russell, I think, has made a little bit of a mistake there. And it has been noted, that incident between George Russell and Max Verstappen. George Russell forcing another driver off the track. But I think, yeah, George Russell's made a small error somewhere because he's now over a second and a half adrift of Max Verstappen. George Russell's one and only chance at going for that maneuver, and he just kind of got it all wrong, really. The Briton went very deep into the corner, way too deep, some would say. I think everyone would say. George Russell then slots into second place, and Max Verstappen looks like he's going to get 8 points on the board. Carlos Sainz also now comfortably 2 seconds ahead of Lewis Hamilton after the two Ferraris squabbled through that middle part of the lap into the final sector. Alex Albon looking solid in 6th place. Yuki Tsunoda still 7th, and Ollie Behrman in 8th place. Has DRS to Yuki Tsunoda ahead, though, does Ollie Behrman. Kimi Antonelli now looking to get inside of those points scoring places. No further investigation for George Russell there, so looks like Russell is all right, and they're not going to penalise him in any way for that incident down towards turn 12. And Max Verstappen leads by 1.5 seconds. Ollie Behrman, Kimi Antonelli is a little battle that's brewing, though. Behrman having a little look at Yuki Tsunoda. And Max Verstappen not very happy at all about the ride of his Red Bull car at the rear in particular. Just looks a little bit unstable. His rear grip falling away from him, especially as he comes up the hill towards turn 1. It's already unsettling the car a touch because you're coming up the hill. It's not really an angle that Formula 1 cars like to be at whilst they're braking. And then you have to dart left, and it's quite a tight left-hander turn 1. Then through a very smooth turn 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 sector. Here we are then. It does feel like everyone's just settling into a position a touch. Ollie Behrman has lost out on DRS to his teammate. Lewis Hamilton is making strides forward. Hamilton now 1.2 seconds adrift of Carlos Sainz, so that final podium position not guaranteed yet. And Kimi Antonelli also has a little look at the back of Ollie Behrman. That final point scoring place up for grabs, as the teammates from last year in Formula 2, don't forget, Ollie Behrman and Kimi Antonelli, they were both side by side for the Formula 2 season. Neither of them had an incredible year, but wasn't entirely them to blame. And that's where Lewis Hamilton got the opportunity. Charles Leclerc made a stupid mistake, and that was where it wasn't that Charles Leclerc was caught sleeping. It was the fact that Charles Leclerc did indeed make a mistake, and Lewis Hamilton made him pay for it. As we see a replay of Liam Lawson making a move on Pierre Gasly up the inside of the turn 12, and a very nice overtake from Liam Lawson up the inside of turn 12, just shuffling Pierre Gasly out of the way and up into 10th place. Carlos Sainz and Lewis Hamilton then continuing to just close that gap a touch every single lap. Lewis Hamilton now 1.2 seconds between Carlos Sainz and himself. Of course, the driver he replaced at Ferrari ahead of him. Would be poetic to see those two battle it out here. See who could come out on top. Hamilton was just over 2/10, or just under 2/10, sorry, of a second quicker than Carlos last time around. So needs to do that and a little bit more again to be able to get within DRS range. Watching Isaac Hadjar alongside Nico Hülkenberg at this point. And Isaac Hadjar getting the run at the Stake Sauber car and actually gets the move done on the Stake Sauber car as well. So Hadjar now up ahead of Nico Hülkenberg. Hülkenberg fallen from 4th, now down in 16th place, and he was probably hoping for a very different afternoon's drive after his incredible qualifying yesterday, the German, but collected amongst the chaos at the beginning of the Grand Prix. Nowhere really for him to go. He had Alonso to the left of him, Piastri to the right. There he was, stuck in the middle, and lucky not to be out of the race, to be honest. Lewis Hamilton, though, has dropped a couple of tenths to Carlos Sainz. He was the one I was keeping an eye on. That Ferrari maybe just cooking its tyres at this point. Hamilton is on slightly scrub set. He's 17 laps. Those tyres will have completed now for Lewis Hamilton's car. 12 laps of this sprint, 5 laps either during qualifying yesterday or during free practice. I'd imagine they're a qualifying set of tyres from SQ1 or SQ2. Hope Sainz gets the podium. It's looking very likely now. Lewis Hamilton's tyres have started to drift away from him, and he's not quite gaining those couple of tenths of a second every lap that he was. And George Russell, we now have 2 strikes, both at turn 12. You can see there the violations to my left-hand side as you see it on the screen. George Russell, 2 strikes of track limits. You can have 3 strikes, but a 4th strike, you get a 5-second penalty. And 5-second penalty would mean George Russell drops down. Oof. Replay of the start. Yeah, both of those McLarens were going nowhere after that, where they Oscar Piastri's McLaren sent flying up into the air and then flew across the racetrack. And his front right tyre collects rear left tyre. Piastri hitting into the back of Lando Norris. And once that happened, it was all done and dusted, wasn't it? Oh, Lando being discussed. And Lando not very happy at all. But as he says, and as I agree, I don't think there's much Lando Norris could have done there. Piastri, same question. What could he have done? Yeah, that's what I thought. Oscar Piastri just saying what we saw, really, that the fact that he tried to cut back, he hasn't seen it from the TV camera's perspective, but from his perspective inside of the car, went for an opportunity, went for a gap that he thought was there and just kind of closed as Kimi Antonelli goes side by side with Ollie Behrman. This is a lovely little battle between the two ex-teammates from Formula 2 last year, and Behrman just about keeps ahead of Kimi Antonelli. And, ooh... although Ollie Behrman did go off the track there to keep position, so I'm sure Mercedes will be talking about that to the stewards. But Kimi Antonelli's still got the opportunity to get past. Oh, a little bit of a lock-up from Ollie Behrman down towards turn one. Kimi Antonelli can't gather the pace, though, for now to get past. Oh, thank you, GameStar70, for the super chat. Much appreciated. McLaren 2007, McLaren 2025, Kimi 2007, Max 2025. I mean, I hope not. I very much hope not. Kimi Antonelli, though, closing into the back of Ollie Behrman once again. This is the only battle that is really playing out. Hamilton was closing into the back of Sainz. That's now leveled out, and he's 1.3 seconds adrift now. A couple of laps earlier, he was still 1.3 seconds adrift, so that's done and dusted. Albon is slotted into 6th place, is within a second, of Yuki Tsunoda. Tsunoda's got DRS to the Williams in front of him, and Ollie Behrman still trying to keep Kimi Antonelli at bay. Still 5 laps left to race. It's about to become 4 as Max Verstappen crosses the start-finish line to start lap 16 of this COTA Grand Prix. And it's been very, very tight indeed. There's been a lot of little battles unfolding. George Russell went for a move on Verstappen but couldn't get it. And then has just fallen away from Max. Max, I think, absolutely smashing it. And going for those 8 points. Carlos Sainz also comfortable in 3rd. Hamilton 4th. Charles Leclerc 5th. Alex Albon 6th. Yuki Tsunoda 7th and within DRS range. And Ollie Behrman for now in the final point scoring place in 8th. Oh, and there's a yellow flag for a track hazard. It feels like Esteban Ocon has come to a stop. And who's he collided with? It's Esteban Ocon and Lance Stroll. And Lance Stroll has also lost his front right tyre. So Stroll and Ocon have come to blows up towards turn 1. That's going to be a safety car to get Esteban Ocon's car off the track. And I think that's almost going to be the end of it. Lance Stroll tried to continue, but he's got a long way to go from turn 1 around to the pit entrance and decides against it. Lance Stroll comes to a stop just on the outside of turn 3. Let's have a little look at the replay of this then. Ocon and Stroll coming up the hill towards turn 1. Stroll goes very early and Lance Stroll locks up and just collects the back of Esteban Ocon. Absolutely nothing that Esteban Ocon can do there, and Lance Stroll should certainly get a penalty for that. Locks up massively, doesn't make the corner, smashes into the side of Esteban Ocon, ruins the Frenchman's afternoon. In another sense, though, for Haas, it might just lock in Ollie Behrman getting an 8th place finish and a point on the board. So, in one way, Haas have lost a driver. In another way, they might have gained a point. So, they can look at it from that perspective. McLaren doing a 2008 again. 2007 was a difficult year to look back upon as a McLaren fan. Luckily, I wasn't a McLaren fan then because Jenson Button was not at McLaren at that point. Ocon got strolled. Yeah, Stroll just not sure what he was really going for. It was a very, very long way back. I appreciate he saw a bit of a gap, went for a dramatic overtake towards turn 1, and it was very dramatic indeed because just ended up colliding with the rear left tire, of Esteban Ocon and wiping the Frenchman out of the race. So Esteban Ocon now out of his car. The drivers making their way back to the pit lane. Esteban Ocon walking down the hill. 17 laps completed. Likely that we're going to finish under the safety car here then, because Lance Stroll's car is still just on the outside of turn 3. They're having to move the crane from a considerable distance away to try and pick up that car because they had to pick up Oscar Piastri a lot further up the track. And Esteban Ocon, and Fernando Alonso as well in that same part of the track. But we have now got 5 drivers out of this sprint race. Considering sprint races, a lot of the time the drivers kind of take it a bit easy. Don't want to damage your car too much. You know, you've got qualifying later for the main Grand Prix, which is the real big winner. But the sprints, just today, they've decided everyone has committed to making this sprint entertaining. And it's good in terms of TV spectacle. It's bad if you're a fan of any of the cars that have wiped themselves out, or even the cars that have taken damage. Like Nico Hulkenberg is going to have a suboptimal front wing now for the rest of the weekend. The damaged cars, you know, you're looking at Stroll, Ocon, Piastri, Alonso, Norris are also going to have to replace various parts of their cars respectively, and they're never going to be the best part possible, because unless you've got 2 exactly the same part, especially down at McLaren, and Aston Martin as well, gonna have to decide which car gets which spare piece. Could be very interesting indeed. What time does quali start? It starts in 3.5 hours-ish from now. George Russell should spin out and let Verstappen win and Hamilton get a podium. I think George Russell would disagree with that idea. Although I think Max Verstappen would be more than happy for this to finish under the safety car. I think it's likely to finish under the safety car because the safety car would have to be called in before they really get to sort of turn 11, 12, like down that straight. The safety car would have to be called in. No consequences for penalties. I mean, I think Lance Stroll is going to end up with a good chunk of penalty points there. A couple of penalty points coming Lance Stroll's way because it was very ridiculous, the move that he decided to try and go for. Oh, and Ollie Behrman gaining an advantage. That is under investigation. So, Ollie Behrman. Oh, and yeah, it's a 10-second time penalty. 10-second time penalty for Ollie Behrman. That puts him all the way down in last place then, because we're going to finish behind the safety car. And Kimi Antonelli is going to inherit that final point scoring place. So, from bad to worse for Haas, really. One of the drivers whacked out of the race by Lance Stroll, and the other driver handed a 10-second time penalty, which is going to put them stone dead last of the drivers still competing. So it's going to be Verstappen from Russell and Sainz, our top 3. Hamilton and Leclerc just outside of the podium places, but in 4th and 5th place, so 9 points on the board for Ferrari. Alex Albon gets another 3 points on the board for his season so far. And finish in 6th place, Yuki Tsunoda. A stunning safety drive into 7th place from 18th on the grid, Yuki Tsunoda. So gambled and rewarded. And Ollie Behrman, 10-second time penalty is going to drop him down. Kimi Antonelli up into 8th place. And 1 point for Kimi Antonelli to celebrate his new contract with Mercedes for the 2026 season. Ooh, Ollie has a ban. If he does get 2 penalty points, he will get a ban. But I don't think he'll get any penalty points for that. 10-second time penalty was for leaving the track and gaining an advantage. Penalty points are given for when you do something sort of dangerous or you wipe out another driver. So Ollie is not going to get a ban, don't worry. Not yet, anyway. Still the full race to come. He could do something silly amongst that. Yay, now Max has a chance to win 5 world championships in a row. No, we do not want this. We do not want Max Verstappen to be anywhere close to this driver's championship. He's got enough of them. It's time for someone else to have a go. Specifically, a McLaren driver. Specifically, a driver from the team that I support. Here we are then. Cars continuing behind the safety car, coming around to turn 12 to the final sector of this sprint race. We've had a lot of safety car, really, wasn't it? There wasn't too much racing, but the racing that we did have was pretty spectacular. Like, they really did go for it. As Max Verstappen follows the safety car around to take another sprint victory. Max Verstappen's got a lot of sprint victories, hasn't he? In Formula One, considering the sprints haven't been around for too long. I think Max Verstappen's won more than enough of them. And then once the Red Bull was given the opportunity to release itself from behind the safety car, George Russell had one little attempt at trying to take the lead from Verstappen, but Verstappen was able to then elongate his lead away from George Russell. Then the safety car has come again, and Max Verstappen has finished behind it in first place. Russell, Sainz, Hamilton, Leclerc, Albon, Tsunoda and Antonelli are point-scoring finishers. Lawson, Gasly, Bortoletto, Hadjar, Hulkenberg, Colapinto and Behrman finished the sprint race. And of course, we've got Lance Stroll, Esteban Ocon, Oscar Piastri, Fernando Alonso and Lando Norris out of the race. 8 points for Max Verstappen, 0 points for the McLaren drivers. He's now within 55 points of the championship lead. If he does this again tomorrow, it'll drop down to 30 points. And suddenly, 30 points with 5 races to go. And Super Max looks super competitive once again. And Verstappen not happy with the balance of the car. He wants to analyze what's going on, but still thanks the team. And I will thank you guys for coming along and watching this with me. We will be live again in, 3 hours time to watch the qualifying for the full Grand Prix. I'm going to disappear now, get some food, and then watch the McLaren team put their cars back together again, hopefully, in the hope that Oscar Piastri and Lando Norris can maybe pull out a pole position later on in the Grand Prix. And George Russell does indeed say over the radio he knew it was going to be his only chance to go for a move, so he went for it and wasn't able to do it. But as I say, thank you guys so much for watching. Leave a like, subscribe, all that good stuff. If you're watching on YouTube, if you head over to the Crash Happy podcast, hit subscribe over there. That'd be absolutely amazing. Or if you hit the top link in the description, I did a video where I talked about the 2 McLaren drivers and the incidents that we've had so far this season. If you could help me out by giving that video a view, just going down there and watching it, that'd be absolutely amazing as well. I will see you in a few hours time. Have a wonderful little break. And we're back for qualifying. Max Verstappen has a chance to go back-to-back in qualifying. He's taken the sprint victory. Can he take pole position once again? We'll have to wait and see.